What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. WWE Crown Jewel is coming up this Thursday afternoon. Thursday morning, technically. It's 11 a.m. is when it's starting.
It's 11 a.m.
I don't feel like getting up that early. Or, realistically, just not sleeping. But it's happening this Thursday. Pay-per-view usually comes along with it. This two-parter kind of deal that we have going on here. We'll do the post-show afterward, but you got to preview it beforehand. So we're going to run down our predictions. We're going to talk about what we think is going to happen, tell you what the card is currently as far as around 12:20 a.m. on Tuesday morning. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, is Robert A. Felice.
I'm just going to get this out of the way. The more I think about it, I like the Crown Jewel pay-per-view name. I like the logo. It has grown on me even more throughout the years. Super Showdown sucks.
Yep.
Crown Jewel is one that they should definitely keep in the rotation even after they're out of Saudi.
I think it's just a Saudi thing, but I like the name. Super Showdown sucked. It's just blah. I mean, I'd rather it be Super Showdown than for it to be like, greatest blank every year. Like they did Greatest Royal Rumble.
They never did that ever again.
Yeah, so, you got to take what you can get, I guess. And as far as this card goes, it's the same sort of thing because we've got about 8 or 9 matches or so. It seems like that's pretty much what the lineup's going to be. I'm feeling very... Well, if you checked out my heat index on EWN, you'll see almost everything got a temperate, just meh. I'm not feeling super hyped about it. These cards are weird. Sometimes they end up being some of the craziest, most fun stuff, and a lot of times they almost act like they're non-canon, and I'm not looking at this as being one of those major, crazy, awesome things. There are some good things that are on this card we'll be breaking down. There are some things that I think are just complete filler and useless, and when we're doing this, make sure that you drop your comments below. Tell us what you think, what your predictions are, and all that jazz. While you're over there on YouTube in particular, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Ring that little notification bell as well. Hit the little share button to pass this along to anybody that's interested in checking this out that you think might, kind of like our stuff. And on the monetary side of things, if you want to help us out, help us grow, help us keep the lights on, help my my wedding fund, help my sanity, help whatever, it all leads to the same thing. It's one of those rivers with all the tributaries that all goes into the big ocean.
My sanity is also in that ocean somewhere. And please go
multiple
find
sanities. And not the WWE one. But the ways that you can contribute to that, of course, there are some direct methods like the PayPal button at the bottom of the page on smarkmoment.com. There's the Patreon. There's the join button on YouTube, which is the same thing as the Patreon. It's just the YouTube side of things. So Guest 5, for instance, is on the YouTube stuff, so he gets the same dark casts that the people on the Patreon do, because I put it up on both, because why not? I'm not mean. And there's the pick your poison tier where you can make sure that we do something if we haven't gotten around to something and you really want us to do it, or you got a cool idea that you want us to do and you want us to not necessarily wait or dawdle or not get around to it. You'll be like, nope, I'm directly financing this, and then we do it. Plenty of people in the past have done like a Superstar Scores or one more match or top rope list or whatever it might be. So keep that in mind.
Is there something that you're itching to do that's like, I want somebody to pay for this specifically because I really want to, like, let's say, watch WrestleMania 2. Don't watch WrestleMania 2.
Well, I mean, the main thing I wanted to do is the thing that we already recorded in advance that you guys are going to be hearing for a little bit, that whole mock draft of all time and stuff, which we're donezo on that recording. It is, I don't know how many hours worth of material. I know that the last part of it was 3 hours and 40 minutes or so.
It's at least 10 hours. This is not a spoiler in any way. It's very weird. Like it's good in a lot of ways. It's very like, I didn't see that coming in a lot of ways. It's fun.
Some good stuff, coming your way. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like when people have oddball ideas more so than anything else. The things that I could think of are things that we usually just end up doing down the line. I like it when somebody just sort of comes up with kind of like what we did with the fan tracks for fanboysanonymous.com, which you should go check out. You should subscribe and, all that good stuff that's over there. But like when we got the Tucker and Dale versus Evil, never would have seen that movie unless that would have been Pick Your Poison. And then that gets suggested, and then it ends up being a lot of fun. And if somebody were to be like, hey, I want you to do a Mount Rushmore of, and then it's like some kind of oddball topic where we'd be like, wow, we would never get around to doing that. That's kind of stuff that I think is pretty cool. But of course, maybe if
I
you're
agree.
just like straightforward and you're just kind of like, man, I really want these guys to do some kind of like what are some of the other like gimmicks that we've got, like another edition to Play the Game. Like, I want you guys to do another Play the Game. Then we will. That's kind of the point. But that's things to keep in mind. TeePublic and Redbubble are also two other ways that you can pick up some merchandise. And there's the little thanks button too. If you want to just go like, there you go, little tip thing. Also keep in mind that there are those super chats. And later on this week, on Thursday afternoon, after we get done with the Crown Jewel, we'll have another live pay-per-view post show. And if you are able to join us live for that, if you want to throw some spare change our way that way, that's another way to do it. But the plug stuff, at least as far as that goes, out of the way. And with the card for Crown Jewel, usually the way that I like to start things off is, what are the matches that we didn't get on the card that we think that we're getting? I don't think that there's anything that they're going to add. I don't think that there's anything that stands out that they should have added. It's the kind of thing where it's like, well, why aren't these people on the card? Sure. But it's not like Damian Priest is feuding with somebody. It's not like Shinsuke Nakamura has anything going on. Charlotte Flair they are very, very much in the let's just dawdle and waste time with Charlotte Flair kind of thing. They don't.
Or maybe Charlotte is just one of the ones that's like, no, I'm not going to Saudi Arabia.
Even still, though, they haven't given her a feud of her own on Raw. So I think that you could justify it in that kind of way, but I think that this is one of those cards where it's pretty exposed of what they wanted to do. They wanted to do Roman and Brock. They wanted to do for the gimmick, because everything's got a gimmick. They wanted to do the tournaments. And then they wanted to hit the mark on Legend, because that's what they do with every the other things. So that's why you got Goldberg. That's why you got Edge and Hell in a Cell. So it's gimmick, Legend, and that's it. And then they go, and we need the Mansoor match. That's the bottom line of it. Like, let's be honest. If we could get them to not say the corporate speak and not be like, no, all the matches are, and we put the same amount of investment in everything. No, you don't. Like, just, it's like talking to some little kid or something like that. No, you don't. Shut up. Like, that kind of thing. But it's true. That's what it is. So it's like, they weren't looking at this as a traditional card to book. They don't look at traditional cards as traditional cards anymore. They look at that as like, well, what can we spread out thin and put them on TV and, So I'm not looking at this in the same way that I would with like, well, who's missing on WrestleMania? Like, no, it's a filler event.
I'll tell you what, though, even in this context, it's gone down, hasn't it, pal? These cards used to be like, well, you're going to see The Undertaker, you're going to see Cena. Now it's like, oh, cool, there's an Edge match. Goldberg's got another one in him. And thank God for the travel ban lifting, we have Brock.
Yeah, these cards are going to be getting worse and worse over time, too, because they released everybody. Not obviously everybody, but they released their big pool of wrestlers. So when we get whatever it is in January, like the old school Raw or whatever that they're going to do, are they going to have the same 3 people that pop up every single time? They're going to bring Ron Simmons out. They're going to get... Well, they can't even do that because, hey, Big Show's gone and Mark Henry's gone and Sting's gone. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just... you're not going to put Ric Flair on there. You're not going to... I don't know. But I guess this is supposed to be good enough. And in some ways, I'm interested in some of the matches, but there are some matches that I'm very much just like, yeah, I don't care. So, without further ado, let's get into the card.
Mansoor, sure? You just said you don't care.
Well, I mean, we probably won't break down some of these in high depth. Because like Mansoor versus Mustafa Ali. Okay, they split up because the intention was Mansoor's got to win a match. So Mansoor wins the match. That's
I think
it.
at some point the intention was, hey, let's put the belts on these two guys. And then last minute they just decided, well, we got to get them on the card. Let's just do the Mansoor match.
Yeah, I don't think there was any chance they were going to beat RK Bro.
It's
Now,
Saudi.
if it would have been like Styles and Omos, maybe, but definitely not RK Bro. And they had the tension from the start. I figured this was where they were heading. And that's
Shout
just
out to Dallas on the website. One of the questions in this week's Triple Threat is, do you think that Mansoor can use this match to, get a bigger push outside of being a local guy? And I said, LOL, he already beat Dolph Ziggler and Cesaro. He doesn't need a win over Ali to do this. But
he won that big battle royal too.
The greatest battle royal.
The 50-man, right?
Or was it like the biggest battle royal in WWE history? It was something. It was some.
I think it was biggest battle royal or something. Yeah.
And Mansoor won it. Good for him. And I hope they have a good match. Ali wrote something on social media about how this is the first time two Muslims are fighting in a singles match on pay-per-view, and I'm like, that's really cool. Cool for them. Cool that's happening in that market. Look, you can say what you want about the people running the country. I'm not gonna bastardize the people who are just living there. They need that too, so that's nice for them. I think Mansoor wins, obviously, because Mansoor, he's over in Saudi.
I mean, imagine the nuclear heat if Ali wins.
That'd be awesome.
I kind of wanted to happen just to see how crazy everybody goes with it, just to be like, fuck you, the hometown guy didn't win. But yeah, I mean, it's a political thing. It's happened every time. Mansoor wins.
At least he's a member of the roster now.
And I like Mansoor. I don't want that to come off as being like, this fucking guy. No, he's good. I like him. He's not somebody I'd be giving the world title to right now, but like, I'd be cool with a scenario happening down the line where like, maybe in another couple events, maybe he wins like the Intercontinental Championship. I'd be cool with that.
I would be perfectly fine with that, and at least he's on the roster now. Yeah, that's all I got.
That's all you really need. Mansoor wins.
I hope it's good. And good for Ali, too, because he needs to be on more.
Let's talk about the no-holds-barred match, Bobby Lashley against Goldberg, which is another straightforward...
Wants to murder this man. It's straightforward my ass. Goldberg he insists every time he gets a microphone that he's going to murder him.
Despite the fact that WWE says you can't say murder and kill and all these things, his promos have literally been, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to murder you, I'm going to murder you until you're dead and kill you more. Like that kind of thing. I'm going to kill, murder, death you. And that's it. And it's, look, I mean, you could boil it down as much as you want to this is the core of the whole thing. Lashley beat Goldberg because he had the championship and they wanted to set up a rematch. So they did. He dropped the championship. And now not only is it a no-holds-barred match to make up for the fact that that would be a better contest, but it's also, this is non-title because he's not a champion, so Bobby Lashley is going to lose. Goldberg is certainly not going to lose this. That's it. Like, I don't know how much more to break it down other than that.
I hope that it's actually, I hope that Goldberg tries a little harder beyond his signature moves. Let Lashley get some good shots in. Let it feel like a fight.
I want to see him go straight into it. Like, I want to see that this has not been just bullshit and that the match starts and Goldberg pulls out like a machete or something and he's just kind of like, oh shit, you actually did want to kill him. Like,
Or like go straight to strangling him or something like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
want
gonna
to.
kill you. Somebody give me a tie. I heard that worked for Daniel Bryan.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like it's not gonna be the way that it seems like it's marketed towards. Like Goldberg's not gonna be going super crazy here. He's gonna hit spears and he's gonna do punches, and then they're gonna do the same stuff. They're gonna get tackled into the security barricade, and they're gonna hit the ring posts, and steel steps are gonna get in there. Steel chair is gonna be a shot to the stomach and a shot to the back. It's not all that into it. This is a means for Goldberg to get the win back and to play superhero. That's it.
Yeah.
So, like, all right, skip.
My issue is what are we getting here? Because Goldberg, he did an interview with Sports Illustrated, and it was hilarious, where he's like, I want to give back to the younger generation. Ashley's fucking 45. What do you mean? Like, this is the issue. And this is an issue across the board, too, because, like, yeah, age isn't what it used to be. And I'm not, like, naive to that, right? Like, I'm 28, I'm still very young. And you're in your 30s, you're still very young. But Orange Cassidy's 35, and people act like he's a fresh 22-year-old, Like,
be like, hey, that kid Jerry Lawler's going somewhere. He's the future.
but it's like here's a good one. Damian Priest.
Yeah, he's like 40, right?
Is like pushing 40, and they're like the future of WWE. And what the fuck? What future? Like Austin and Rock and Goldberg got in and got out by 40. What the fuck are you talking about?
It is weird to hear somebody like Priest who's like, he's fresh, but he's not young. And then you get somebody like an Austin Theory who's like 21 or something.
Yeah, Austin Theory is actually the future.
Yeah.
He's young. That's same thing over on the other show. MJF, Darby Allin, they're like 22, 23. They're the future.
Darby Allin, I mean, he's probably not going to last all that long the way that he keeps wrestling.
Look at Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy, he can't go as he used to go, but he's still going.
True. Fair enough. So yeah, Goldberg, he's not going to put over that young whippersnapper, Bobby Lashley. It's just Goldberg wins.
Yep.
Then you got the other legend match. Well, one of the other 3 legend matches.
No. Let's talk about one that I don't have much to say for real quick. RK Bro against AJ and Omos. I got nothing.
RK Bro retains.
Cool, we got that out of the way.
Yeah, it's literally filler. There's no reason for it other than to get people on the card and to fill time. So there you go. RK Bro retains.
There's a huge reason for it. Saudi loves Randy.
That's what I mean, though. You get him on the card, and then you fill time. It's just a rematch. And then you got another rematch between Edge and Seth Rollins. This one is Hell in a Cell. And everywhere that I've written up about this, I've written the same basic thing, which was Edge wins, then to prolong it, Rollins wins. So then now they go back to Edge. So it's the math of the situation. Rollins is the one that had the momentum on his side as far as like, oh, I went to your house and whatever. So Edge is the good guy. He needs to beat that, kind of go against that. And number 3, I would care so much more about this if we hadn't already seen Hell in a Cell. And I'm not excited for the matches being like, this is not going to be Hell in a Cell the way that it was in the late 90s. It's just not. And guys, as much as WWE is going to sell you on it, and believe me, they are always going to sell you on it. Every single match and every single thing is, oh my God, but you never know. This one's going to be crazy. Because they're never going to say, and this is going to be about mid. They're never going to say that.
Can you imagine? They're just like, hey guys, here's a bunch of photos of Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley. You're not going to see anything like this on Sunday night.
Or like, you got like a Jimmy Smith and he's just kind of like, and we've got a Hell in a Cell match coming up, Edge versus Seth Rollins. It's not going to be anything close to the Hell in a Cell that you used to see, but if you've been enjoying the past 10 years of Hell in a Cell, it'll be somewhere around that. And then
shit, it's not even that anymore. Like, it used to just be like, okay, here's Hell in a Cell, it's a little bit bigger, and then it became, it's red. Why is it red? I have no idea why.
And you can get disqualified in it.
Rollins did. Let's see if he can do it again.
Right. I want to hear that thing from Bray Wyatt so much because Bray Wyatt recently said something about being like furious about it or whatever, and it's just like, this is going to be the way that it always is. It's somebody's going to pull out a fucking chair. They're going to do the I hit you in the stomach, I hit you in the back. Somebody's going to pull out a kendo stick because it's the only weapon you can use these days. I hate it with a passion. They're going to hit each other with the steps. They're going to do the whole rake your face on the cage. All the commentators are going to be told to perpetually talk about how brutal and how you'd never walk away from this feeling the same. And it's a regular match.
I think this one will be a little different. I think Edge, because he is of an era where it meant something, I think he will do his best to make sure it means something.
I really hope so, because I don't care.
I was gonna say,
that's not to crap on the two of them. Like, Edge is one of my absolute favorites of all time. Of course, Seth Rollins is great, but it's just like, all right, I've seen it twice. Hell in a Cell sucks these days. What's the selling point? The selling point for something never, to me, can be, well, it's not going to be as good as it was before, but it'll happen again. That's never something that's going to make me do that. Like, if I were to go see, the new James Bond film, if they would have marketed No Time to Die and said, well, I mean, it's not Casino Royale, then I would have been like, well, shit, of course it's not. Like, no, you have to try to make everything seem like it's better. And then when you have a certain track record, you know that that's not the case. Hence, to bring another movie franchise into the mix, hence, when I saw the previews for Terminator 3, man, did I go crazy. I was like, oh my God, we're getting a follow-up to my favorite movie of all time. And this is crazy. We're going to have, there's a shot of Arnold with a minigun in a graveyard, and there's whatever. And this is, all this crazy stuff. And then when you get the follow-up movies after that point where they keep going, yeah, but this one ignores the previous one. And you go, yeah, but the other one did too. And then they go, yeah, but we ignore it more. They're like, all right. 5 movies come out afterward or whatever. They all go, yeah, but no, I'm the real one. You go, all right. The last 3 said that. I don't care.
So I have an issue with this. This match would mean so much more to me if they didn't get drafted to the same fucking show. If you can literally go,
that's true.
It's Hell in a Cell, regardless of if it's the 2021 iteration, and you will never see it again, except you will.
Well, Edge will probably take time off, and we won't see him until Royal Rumble.
Oh, you think he loses here?
Oh, no, I think he wins and he just takes time off.
It's lame.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Edge wins, and he cuts a promo about, like, all right, I've exorcised that demon or whatever like that, and I can't wait to be a part of Monday Night Raw, and then we don't see him again until, like, January.
We'll see him I think he does Survivor Series.
Ideally, he should, because they want to get his name on the card, but
I think he does Survivor Series, skips December, and then does all of WrestleMania season.
I'm going Edge on this one.
Yeah, and I think, for whatever it's worth, I think it'll be a really good match. They did well at Survivor Series. I have that in my head now. They did well at SummerSlam. They did really well at the Garden. Garden match was really good. And I think that it'll be even better here.
Garden matches when they're surrounded by a bunch of plants.
Yeah, Poison Ivy's the ref. It's great.
It's one of those hedge mazes.
I thought about Poison Ivy, and I'm like, oh, the Batman discussions we could have one day.
And I was trying to think of a way to formulate hedge maze mixed with edge. I'm like, an edge maze match? And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, Rollins will be trapped like a rat in a maze. Huh?
The sewer rat monkey, whatever the fucking joke was. Shout out to Waco, by the way. He brought up a good point. Yeah, it's been discussed before. I think we had a whole debate on Smack Talk one time about it, of Pain and Destruction are the middle names of Axe and Smash. Yes. That it's like Smasher, Smash, Destruction Demolition is the full name or whatever. He brought up a good point. He's like, hey, if Edge and Christian are kayfabe brothers, does that mean that Edge's name is Edge Cage? It's like, yeah, you know what? It kind of is. He's Edge Cage.
I was gonna say Edge and Christian Edge, but yeah, you're right. It'd be Edge Cage and Christian Cage.
It's weird.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Edge Cage. That's like such a terrible. That's the name of a character that should have been played by Jean-Claude Van Damme in the 80s. Some like Bloodsport knockoff type thing or something like that.
Edge Cage.
His name is Edge Cage. He's the best fighter all like this side of LA.
It feels like a Bollywood like Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
It's Edge Cage, and this is Mortal Fighting.
It's the knockoff one. And now it's Immortal Combat with a combat with the C though.
But this is one that I think will probably be the talk of the night or the afternoon.
Edge Cage.
Yeah, Edge Cage in a cage against Seth Rollins.
WWE Championship is on the line. Big E against Drew McIntyre.
Boy, do I not care.
You know, I hate to say it, but yeah, because it's like, I'll give them credit for this. Drew McIntyre can't fight for the championship as long as Bobby Lashley's holding the title. Bobby Lashley loses the title. Drew goes, okay, I won a title match. I like that. But
I like that they are forcing it, even though Drew is leaving the show.
That's the thing. We know that he's leaving. He's not going to be turning heel and winning this championship. Big E's going to retain. They're going to shake hands afterward. Mutual respect. Drew McIntyre is going to come up on SmackDown and be like, hey, you know, I just came up short or whatever, but I've got my sights on the Universal Championship.
Does he get a shot at day one?
It all depends on what they want to do for Mania. I still think that Jeff Hardy makes the most sense, but
I think Jeff Hardy makes less sense now that TLC is not a thing.
Definitely true. If all they have planned to do is what I'm going to suggest when it comes to the Brock and Roman match a little bit later on, then it might be McIntyre. So we'll come back to this point. Let's talk about the SmackDown Women's Championship Triple Threat match. This is one of those matches where all three of them are phenomenal. I'm sure the match is going to be good, if not great. Maybe even the match of the night. And I honestly kind of don't care. And it sucks to say that because I'm like, the reason why is the draft kills this. They decided to book Bianca against Charlotte on Monday Night Raw. And as soon as Charlotte hit her with that chair, it was like, all right, well, then there goes the interesting thing. Because if Bianca would have won the Raw Women's Championship, I would have been so much more interested because I would have been like, oh, okay, wow, okay, then maybe they're going to go with Sasha wins. And then that's how they keep the titles on those brands. And maybe that's interesting. Where do they go from there? But no, it's Charlotte retains. She goes over to SmackDown. Becky retains. She goes over to Raw. And then they swap the titles. The end.
And they do it in a moment that's like super tense because I'll see you
at Survivor Series. That feud is going to be heating up again, everybody. Oh, ho, ho. We've seen these two fight so many times. They were good friends, better enemies.
For some reason, like the old WrestleMania theme song popped in my head when I pictured a build-up to these two. The ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Good song.
Look, I'm not like you guys. I don't care that we've seen it a million times because I'm of the mindset that, like, I'll eat a fucking ribeye steak, breakfast, lunch, and dinner because it's good. You know, like, Becky and Charlotte are good. I'll take it. Thank you.
I want some variety. I'm not in the boat of you always have to do something different for the sake of it. I'm very much in I want to do something different if it's good. But, you know, pasta's my favorite meal. I don't want to eat it every time for dinner.
Well, I'll say this. Like, you do want variety in the sense that, like, I'd like to go from a ribeye steak to some lobster tail, not a ribeye steak to Salisbury steak. You know, like, I don't have any interest in the sheer downgrade that some of the competitors may appear to be.
Yeah, because that's the thing with a lot of the repeats too, is if they consistently get better, then you look forward to it. Like, I'll bring back the movie analogy again. Mission Impossible 1, blah. I don't really like it. Mission Impossible 2, kind of weird, but it's more entertaining. It's just not thoroughly great. Number 3, pretty damn good movie. Number 4, better. Number 5, better. Number 6, better. So at this point, when they're doing like 7 and 8, I'm like, well, fuck yeah, I'm into this, because like these things keep getting better. Like, I can't wait to see those 2 movies. But when you show me that like Becky and Charlotte have had like what, like a dozen matches or so, that just between the 2 of them, and then they've had, of course, the other element that comes along with this is the same thing with everything else. Constant promos, constant video packages, constant reminders, where even when I crunched the numbers the other day, Brock and Roman have had 9 matches together.
Including like Fatal 4-Ways and shit?
Yeah. Doesn't it kind of feel in some ways that they've had like 30? Because it's just been, each one of those matches is an entire month circulating around. So it's 9 matches.
See,
is
if
like,
you'd asked me this 2 years ago, I said yes. The landscape has changed so much that it does feel fresh to me.
still doesn't for me.
Like, I'm not.
We'll get into that a little bit.
About the fact that Becky Charlotte is the best we've got for Survivor Series.
Again.
But I understand why Becky and Charlotte is the best we have for Survivor Series. That's mostly their own fault, because it should have been Bianca and Charlotte, at least to give you something different. But you didn't. So give me Becky, and at least I know it's good.
And that's inherently the big problem, is if you don't make new stars, you have to keep sticking around with the same ones. And then because you're sticking around with the same ones, you're not making some new ones. So then you're sticking around with the same ones, and then you're not making new ones, and then you're sticking around, and it just keeps repeating. It's that commercial.
Let me ask you this: does Big E feel like a world champion to you?
Not right now.
There's a problem.
And that's partially because their idea of building Big E has been to not give him almost anything yet. Like, they gave him Money in the Bank, and then he cashed in on Lashley, and then he's lost a bunch of matches since then.
They're going to give him Survivor Series. They're going to act like that's a huge deal.
They're going to act like it's a huge deal, but we all know he's losing, so it ultimately doesn't matter. And he's going to lose that too, so then it goes, okay, well, of course he's like in a league below Roman.
Then they're going to tell you wins and losses. The exact opposite of AEW. Wins and losses don't matter.
Yeah.
It's the fact that he's in the ring, pushing Roman to his limit.
And then you go, well, then if the wins and losses don't matter, then how come Roman doesn't lose? And then they go, oh, because, I mean, he can't lose. And then you go, well, there you go. It's the end of the argument. You're wrong. Like, you know.
And as such, that's why every new champion feels like such a downgrade. There was a way to get from, you know, the John Cena and Batistas and Randys to the Jinder Mahals of the world without making it seem like so much of a negative step, but they go, who really cares? And that ruins everything, because E should feel like a big deal. Instead, it just feels like, okay, you're number 2, but like a very distant number 2. Number 2.
But I mean, like, Drew was the last guy that they were trying to do that with, and he got fucked with COVID.
I say that all the time, and I think people get mad because it's very in vogue to hate Drew right now. And
screw that. Drew deserved to get that push.
Drew got fucked with COVID.
He completely got fucked over when it came to the pandemic. That's the only reason why that was the case. And people would have crapped on him eventually anyway, just because people like crapping on things for the sake of it, which some people incorrectly attribute that I do. And I'm like, no, I crap on something for a reason. I always have a reason for it. I think that McIntyre, yeah, he didn't have the best title reign in the history of the company, but at the same time, during a pandemic thing, I think that a lot of people need to give him a lot more credit. And the things that were kind of like a meh on his side weren't his fault. He's not the one that is trying to book a feud revolving around, an eyeball and then having nothing else to do, so he has to pick up the slack or something. Like, he's not on the creative team. But he's here to lose, to make Big E look a little bit better, and to just be on the card. So they have a match. It's a tough fight. Big E wins.
Yep, Big E has to win because Drew is headed to SmackDown on Friday.
Yeah, he's certainly not taking that title over. That another thing that just kind of spoils it. So let's talk about the tournaments. We have the King of the Ring tournament final and the Queen's Crown tournament final. Finn Balor versus Xavier Woods and Zelina Vega versus Doudrop. I would not have imagined Doudrop and Zelina Vega as the two at the end of this tournament. Even when the bracket came out, I'm like, well, it's not going to be that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Now, Woods, I was hoping for, before they even announced the bracket, I was hoping that he would win it. We all have talked about this before. Xavier Woods has talked about it over the years many times, that that's one of his career goals. And in any other normal circumstance, I would be like, yeah, Finn Balor is a perfect option for this. The Demon King thing, the Prince thing. He could use a fresh paint of coat, as Bruce Pritchard would say. He is somebody that can turn heel through this kind of thing. I would love King Finn Balor, but not if it means Xavier Woods doesn't get what he was looking for. And Piper Niven, I'm a fan of her. Doudrop thing, I think it's pretty stupid. I hate this whole finger twiddle, lip sync the theme song while you're heading to the ring kind of thing. And I don't want to see that as she does that, but she's also wearing a crown. And then you get Zelina Vega, who I'm like, yeah, are you finally realizing that she's worth more than just being a jobber that you push maybe once every 52 weeks? I want Queen Zelina and I want King Xavier Woods. And Zelina wouldn't have even been my first choice, but I'm a fan of her over Doudrop for this. I still think that Queen of Hearts and Queen of Spades makes much more sense.
Zelina would not have been my first choice. I had Carmella beating Doudrop in the finals, but I guess it's Vega. Vega's earned it. She should have gotten this push a long time ago. I hope they really do something with it.
How about the King of the Ring?
And of course, oh yeah, I forgot. We're merging these. But look, I was kind of okay with the idea of, if you're going to get Woods out, get him out through Jinder and just move on. He got past Jinder. I think Woods has to win. He has to. I guess if you want Finn to be a heel, he can do that, because we've never really seen him be a full-blown heel for an extended period of time. But it has to be Woods. And the shitty thing is, and I'm going to say this again about another match coming down the line, this should not be in Saudi. This moment needs to be in front of a crowd that cares. Not that they don't care what,
But yeah, the crowd's not going to know that Woods has been talking for years that he wants to be King of the Ring. Most likely, that's not going to be something that's going to be a priority.
Right.
And it's still kind of weird about the whole, we've only gotten to a point now where we've got 2 women's matches on the Saudi card. Used to be that they weren't allowed at all. And I'm assuming that everybody's just going to be completely covered up, because I guess you can't show a shoulder. I don't understand some of these things, but I'm not going to get into the political stuff. Are they really going to go that crazy over the Queen's Crown thing and make a big spectacle out of it? I kind of feel like they won't. We were joking about this ahead of time. They might literally say, okay, that Zelina Vega, just for instance, Zelina Vega has won the Queen's Crown tournament. Tune into Monday Night Raw to see her coronation.
They're totally doing that. You know that.
And then it just ends up being that she just has a celebration, a normal match where she just gets her hands raised, and then they move to the next segment. And if that's the case, then that's Splitting the difference again. Like, I don't like that. I would much rather something feel a little bit packed than for something to feel like it was stretched thin. I'll use the movie analogy again. Why not? Because that's the case. Lord of the Rings are not my favorite series, but 3 movies. Then you take The Hobbit, you make 3 movies out of 1 book. Shit.
Yep. And I think that they won't even do the crowning because it's like, I'm glad that they brought women's wrestling to Saudi. They're champions of equality. Yay! It's like, I'm glad for them. This needs to be in front of an audience where people care and where people will cheer for Woods and be happy for Vega finally getting that spot, assuming it is Vega, because that's my prediction.
But then again, I mean, doing something in front of a crowd that makes sense. What did they just do? They did tribute to the troops in Canada.
Oh, Canada.
So, I guess it's a non-factor. Maybe doing a bunch of things in front of nobody for this past year made them go, crowds don't even exist. You know?
I guess, especially when it's a Bach crowd, like a Saudi crowd.
And ultimately, my prediction, I'm hoping Vega and Woods. I'm predicting Doudrop and Balor.
I'm predicting Balor and Vega. I'm hoping Vega and Woods.
And then our last match on here, the Universal Championship match, Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar for the 10th time.
You cannot Brock Lesnar rule this. It has been far too long.
I will Brock Lesnar rule the idea that this is not going to be the last match of the 2, and this is probably going to end in some kind of schmaz, and they're going to drag it out to WrestleMania.
You have this. See, it's almost like a hate boner. Because you have this hard-on for these, like, terrible Brock Lesnar ideas at WrestleMania.
But it happens with, like, a lot of these things.
You're the guy who, if it wasn't for the pandemic, which was a blessing in this case, was like, oh, Kane Velasquez is going to win the Royal Rumble, and he's totally going to fight Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania.
I was so happy to be wrong about that. Because I'm like, they're not going to give it to Drew. That would make too much sense, and it's somebody who's on the roster and that they could actually use. They're going to go with the other thing, like, because they completely killed my faith in them with Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. Because it was like, that's the match. And then they're like, nah, we just need to put the belt on Goldberg so he could put the belt on Brock so he could have it for an entire year so he could still beat Roman like 3 more times.
Well, you know what? I'm going to give this as a little teaser. Think about the all-time card we just booked. Think about the decision making of mid-card titles against main event titles. I can see why they ended up doing what they did in 2017.
I still can't.
I don't have to agree with it, but I can see it.
To me, I'm like, they actively neutered something. I always weigh things as, and I do this with everything in my life, and this is one of those things where, like, we can get deeper on others. This is why I want to do the All Talk Show more. But, like, I always make arguments where I use analogies, and I always try to be as fair as, like, militantly fair as I possibly can be, and it upsets everybody. And then I end up with everybody mad at me. You know what I mean? It'll end up being the type of thing where somebody be like, are you, like, liberal or are you conservative? And I'm like, well, I'm liberal about this and conservative about that. And then they're like, well, we both hate you. And then I go, how about you both just kind of come to, like, an agreement kind of where I am in the gray area instead of you have to be one side or the other. And, like, when it comes to having setups of some of these things, I tend to think a lot about, if I'm going to take something away from something, I want to make sure that the level of what I just took away from it is exceeded by the positive that I'm going to give to the other thing. Like, I get the argument when people say, well, actually, you know what? This is a better analogy maybe for this. Beginning of Aladdin. Very much in the movie analogies right now. Beginning of Aladdin, for anybody who hasn't seen it, he's caught trying to steal bread. And it's a whole thing where they're going to, like,
street rat.
Yeah, scoundrel. It's just a little
pretty
snack though,
bad.
guys. But like he's trying to steal some bread, and they're going after him because it's like, hey, you're stealing from us, and we're gonna like chop your hands off and whatever. And at the end of the day, when people talk about the whole like, well, is stealing bad? Yeah. Well, is it as bad to steal a loaf of bread to feed your family as it is to embezzle money when you're a billionaire and you just want to be a billionaire plus a couple more million? No. Give the guy the bread a little bit of a little bit more slack than the guy who's just being greedy. And I feel that way about a lot of those kind of things. So like when I look at like the Brock and Goldberg thing, the bonus of having the championship was a slight upgrade, but taking the championship away from Owens and Jericho was a massive downgrade. And I never would have made that judgment call. I would have been like, you know what? Brock and Goldberg, they can have their match, and it can be, if they're good enough to have the match where they don't need the belt, then they don't need the belt. That's the whole thing.
And see, I would agree with that. I would. But I'm also of a mindset that just because it doesn't need the belt doesn't mean that the belt needs this. And I'm going to get on my soapbox here.
Well, this match, I agree. This one needs to have the belt.
America deserves this fucking... okay, I know. That's
I was not expecting it to just be like, all right, America.
Now, because I genuinely feel this way. America needs this match, not Saudi Arabia. This is a fucking match that could sell out the Barclays for Survivor Series. This is a match that could sell out WrestleMania in SoFi Stadium. And yes, I do genuinely believe that. For WWE fans, because there are some who do just watch WWE, this is a match that could sell out anything. And you're doing it in fucking Saudi Arabia?
And here's my fear is they've done this match 9 times in some fashion.
Most of the time in Saudi Arabia.
Clearly, in their mind, the quote, just do it again is an option over and over and over. Because we did the whole thing with Roman against Brock at Mania. The first time made perfect sense. It wasn't what a lot of people wanted, but it made sense. And then a follow-up makes sense. But we did have that whole situation where Brock beats Goldberg. He holds it for a year. And they go, okay, but Reigns is going to get that win. LOL, he didn't. And then they have a match in Saudi. And it's like, okay, well, then he's got to win that one. And he doesn't. And then they do the other match at SummerSlam. And then it's like, you literally just made 3 matches out of a follow-up to another match. Like, I don't get that kind of thing. That's when they run it into the ground. So that's when I go, okay, well, they're making a big deal out of this, and it's not going to be the last match. So this is going to end in a DQ.
No, it's not.
Or a no contest. And they're literally going to say, and we'll come back around to it for WrestleMania. And I'll be talking about this in April, and I'll be like, God damn it, Brock Lesnar rule. Which it shouldn't just be the Brock Lesnar rule, but I mean, it applies more to Brock than anybody else.
If they come back with it, they're coming back with it at day 1 or at the Royal Rumble. They're not going to do this at Mania.
And I think that they're going to look at it and go, yeah, but Brock is the biggest name, so he needs to be the biggest thing for that because we're not going to do The Rock.
Well, let's talk about the angle.
If not, like, who else fights Roman at Mania?
I mean, popular rumor is The Rock, but there's also like the hotshot Gable Steveson, and I've never even seen this guy work, and I'm just like, maybe that. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
I think Stevenson's going to get some kind of like, not necessarily Dolph Ziggler, but I think he's going to get a spot on the card as, hey, I'm coming out here and I can't wait to be a wrestler. And then somebody's going to be like, yeah, you know what? Then why don't you have an impromptu match right now? And then he beats that person, that kind of deal.
Yeah, but I just, I don't know. I don't see it being the Mania match, but I will say I liked this storyline.
I liked it when it was 2 weeks old and not when it was stretched out to 3 months.
I believe, and yes, I do agree. I have come around to Callum's viewpoint of, okay, Reigns needs to do something else because now he's really falling into that pattern of, I take 10 minutes to walk to the ring.
Yeah, it's true.
I say, acknowledge me, and then we do that for a third of the show. I do agree with that. Flip side of that, it's still the most compelling television on the show. So I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed Lesnar just being a buff lumberjack and coming out and being like, hey, Paul Heyman. And then Reigns looks at Heyman and he goes, you dirty rotten motherfucker. Like, that's been the whole angle. Brock just goes, hey, Paul knew I was going to be at SummerSlam. You dirty rotten motherfucker. Hey, Paul made me a free agent. You dirty rotten motherfucker. It's like, it's the same thing. And I'm just, like, at this point, how has nobody gone, Brock is a liar? like logically, like, it's, if you're with your best friend, Tony, and that best friend is like, hey, I bumped into that other guy, and that other guy goes, no, he didn't. Are you just gonna like go, well, I believe him over you because why ever would he lie? It's like why would he want to stir the pot between us? Like, it's a little funny to see them both getting manipulated like that, but it's interesting in that Brock isn't necessarily exuding babyface behavior. Heyman feels like he's legitimately been cheated and manipulated. And Roman Reigns is just like, I don't care because LOL, I win.
I mean, the least likely scenario here, I think, is that Brock wins the title.
Yeah.
Reigns either wins outright or the thing that I think is happening. I think it's a no contest.
I think at some point, Heyman's going to low blow Lesnar. Lesnar being crouched over will be in perfect position for the guillotine, and he'll pass out.
I'm expecting ref bump. Paul Heyman holds the championship. He's trying to decide who he's going to give it to so the person can hit the other person. And then something like the Usos come down and they start attacking Brock, and Paul Heyman doesn't have to make a decision. And then another referee comes out and calls it a DQ. I'm expecting a full-blown, fuck you, we just want to drag this out longer type of a thing. And if that happens, I'll say it. I won't talk about it much.
He's going to Brock Lesnar.
I'll Brock Lesnar rule it.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what happens.
Hope I'm wrong.
I think Reigns wins by guillotine.
If I'm booking it, Reigns straight up wins. And you just go, yep, he's putting Brock behind him. And then you don't have another more match. Brock moves on to somebody else. He
what moves on to what?
I mean, at this point, you put him in the Royal Rumble. He starts a feud with somebody that comes out of that, and more than likely, the best options are Karrion Kross or Keith Lee.
Bobby Lashley.
There's the Lashley thing too. That's right. Yeah.
I just want to get it out of my system.
But then again, it's not for the championship, so it doesn't matter as much anymore.
Yeah, but who cares? That one never needed the belt. That one is Bobby and Brock, MMA backgrounds, wrestling backgrounds. I'm
totally on board with that because that's the same kind of thing too. That's the flexibility of it. You have Brock go into the Royal Rumble. Bobby Lashley's in the Royal Rumble. Two of them start locking horns. And let's say Brock tosses out Bobby and Bobby's pissed. So Bobby sics the Hurt Business on Brock, and then they manage to get Brock eliminated. Either like they do it or they do it enough to where somebody else, another heel, can just like dump Brock over kind of deal. And then you get the whole thing of like, hey, I would have won the Royal Rumble if you wouldn't have gotten in my way, Brock. You know, this whole time you never wanted to fight me, but now you want to do that? That's bullshit. And Brock comes in and he's just kind of like, yeah, I eliminated you and I'll kick your ass at WrestleMania too. And then they do an MMA thing. There you go. That's what I would do. I don't want to see Reigns versus Lesnar again. I'm okay with not seeing it ever again.
I think we see it maybe one more time in January, and then we never see it again. I think Reigns wins here.
We're going to find out in a couple days, in 2.5 days, mostly. And 2.5 days? No, not even that much. Because now it's technically Tuesday.
Yeah, it's like 2 days.
Yeah. So we'll find out on Thursday. And of course, the stuff on smarkoutmoment.com will be updated with the card. I'll be putting up my normal stuff outside of that, biggest takeaways on Bleacher Report and my recurring thoughts on EWN, and then we'll do our post show right afterward. So if you are subscribed to the channel and you have that notification alert set up, you'll know when we go live. It'll be as soon as possible after it ends, which I'm assuming is going to be closer to around the 3-hour mark for the pay-per-view. The pre-show, I am full-blown assuming it is literally an hour of recap and promotional material for Saudi Arabia. I don't think they're going to add another match. And then I'm assuming 12 to 3 is when this card goes, and then Peacock ends up switching over to NXT UK at 9:30 at night because they probably can't handle it. But the game plan is to follow this through, do our usual stuff. So you do the usual stuff as well. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this. Drop a comment below, and stay tuned to the other things we've got coming your way. That's going to be the next one, and then we got the hot tags, and then other material.
And as for me, you can check out everything we got going on at Fightful.com. I'm just Sean Ross Sapp. We'll have a ton of scoops because he's the best in the world in this game of the scoopsters. So check him out. Check me out everywhere at Dude Felice. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. I'll likely be a whole lot more chipper than Tony, unless they fuck over Xavier.
Hoping for the Xavier thing at the very least, but we'll see. So yeah, follow us all over the place. Do all the good stuff. Anything else we need to talk about?
Nope.
Alrighty. I'm at Tony Mango. I forgot to mention my plug at that.
Listen, we got a lot of good discussion for this event because honestly, it could have just been meh next.
We got an hour out of a thing that we thought maybe we wouldn't stretch it to a half hour.
So here's what you need to do. Stick around and wait for the meh next podcast. Am I right?
The meh next podcast?
You know, I was saying meh next, so stick around and wait for the next podcast. Hey, listen, this is a good idea. Go along with it.
That's how the selling point is. Is that how they do it in WWE too? Yeah, so I am at Tony Mango, Rob's at Dude Felice, and you did your plugs, right? Yeah. All right. I'm tired. Anyway, adios for now, everybody. We will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.